Hello and welcome to the Super Rugby Round 6 preview podcast. I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, a website, podcast, Twitter account and YouTube channel bringing you the best in rugby predictions and opinion. Don't forget to subscribe on your favourite podcasting app so we drop into your phone every week or every night or every time we do a new show. And also please leave us a 5-star review. Other stars are available, but why would you want to? If you want to know what happens behind the covers, the show is live on YouTube at 8 p.m. New Zealand time every Thursday. And this Thursday, joining me is a man where it isn't 8 p.m., it's 2 p.m. in the afternoon or something like that, all the way in Asia. It's Hermann. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, Paul. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Yes, bubbling away. Lots of shows to get out. So for those of you who are watching live, I have just sent out my top 14 and Pro 14 predictions. And later tonight will come out my Aviva Premiership predictions. So yes, lots and lots of content all there for you on the website and on YouTube. So go and check those out. DrivingMaul is obviously the place where it's all at. Anyway, we kick off on Friday night with the Crusaders hosting the Bulls. So a bunch of players returning for the Crusaders. You think this is what the tonic that they need?
Yeah, to get Whitelock and Crosby back, it's going to be huge for them, of course. You know. But they will. Todd is not going to play. Matt Todd, he's not going to play this week. So, but I still think it's a plus game for them to get Crosby and Whitelock back in league Todd.
Absolutely, yeah. Getting those two back is going to be key for them. To obviously guys with all black experience, and as you say, unfortunately, Matt Todd is missing out because of injury. Still, obviously, they're missing a lot of players. I mean, they're still missing two props. Trying to think who else here. Todd and Richard Mwanga, Israel Dag. So there's still a lot of players missing. It's not as though we have a first choice Crusaders side out there, but it is getting closer to the side that won their first two games at home. Mitchell Drummond gets to hold on to the number 9 jersey. Do you think that's fair, or do you think Bryn Hall can feel a bit hard done by?
I think Mitch Drummond should feel a little bit lucky about that. He hasn't been really impressive, not yet at least from me. So I think, yeah, but I guess if he doesn't take a chance this time, I think he will be back to the bench pretty soon.
Yes, I think so. Well, I think what the plan here is to rotate them both around. They're both relatively inexperienced, and get them both experience, so that if they do get injuries, they have someone who can step in with a bit of experience. As we've seen, there are going to be plenty of injuries to go round. So Whitelock comes back to captain. We say Ryan Crosby back as vice captains. That's the leadership back there, which is important for them. The only other interesting change really is to see that Mataleli has got a starting place this weekend, with Tamanavali dropping entirely out of the 23.
That was a little bit of a surprise. Have you heard anything why this happened?
So I think has Tamanavali one of the ones that's going to sign abroad? I'm not sure if it's that. Mataleli has done well coming off the bench the last couple of weeks. Defensively, I think he has shown that he's not that he is a risk at times. But with ball in hand, he's definitely someone who can spark some magic and get some tries. And I think against someone like the Bulls, it's probably a good chance to give him some experience of starting.
I certainly agree with that, and also about people eventually leaving abroad. That's something we can use on a lot of players this season.
Well, yes, there is that. I did tweet out the other day that were there going to be any players left in Australia to fill a team? Never mind 4 teams, because they seem to be losing players left, right, and centre.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. I mean, we could probably go in depth about that in some other show sometime, because it's a big concern.
Yes, it is a big concern. There is another show. Looking at the Bulls, though, Springbok midfielder Jesse Creel will be playing his 50th test. 50th test. It's not a test match, is it? 50th Super Rugby game. And it only seems like yesterday that he was the new kid on the block heading into the Rugby World Cup.
Yeah, but I'm a little bit impressed by him because it was back in 2014. Remember, it was Allende, Creel, and Pollard together, like really pressured the All Blacks all the way. And it looked like they had an awesome, like 10, 12, 13 combination there. But then it all went away, and Creel hasn't really been oppressive during this period. But I think this season he seems like he has a new spring in his step again, and he's looking promising again after maybe almost two years in the wilderness.
Yeah, I think a couple of things has happened. One, they've got Pollard back from injury. So they've got a decent fly half, which always helps. And secondly, I think it's possibly looking like his 50th cap is coming up, that he's looking at being kind of one of the senior players in the team, and he's actually stepping up responsibility-wise. Yeah, we saw that in the first half against the Chiefs last weekend. But then, yeah, in the second half, he seemed to sort of disappear a little bit there. For me, the problem again with the Bulls is that bench. You've got Adrian Strauss with 147 caps, making him, I think it's now the equal top capped South African in Super Rugby. But after that, you look at the rest of the players and you go, wow, Frans van Wyk, 5 caps, Strassen, 0 caps, Van Staden, 4 caps, Van Ziel, 6 caps, Liebok, 1 cap. That's a very inexperienced bench, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And it came to show last week too against the Chiefs. Obviously, Chiefs stepped up their game a lot in the second half too, but yeah, it was probably a bit easy to step up the game too when the Bulls started fielding their bench, because the Bulls was like 2 completely different teams in the first and the second half. I mean, the first half was among the best play I've seen in Super Rugby this season, and the second half they didn't score 1 single point.
Yeah, it does seem that the Bulls were hot and cold. They looked great against the Hurricanes first game out, then haven't sort of seemed to step up to that. Again, as you say, they had that really good start, really good first half against the Chiefs, and they just able to mix it up. And there was some lovely wide. They spread the ball wide. It's not a traditional South African thing, so it could be interesting to see them. It should be a good game to watch, as Andre says in the chat. But I think, yeah, for me, it's a matter of how many Crusaders are going to win by, because I think they'll come through in the end. And I'm backing the Crusaders by about 15. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm also up there about 15. But for me, the big thing I'm probably most curious about, are we going to play in the Brazil jerseys again?
Oh, dear, they're not Brazil jerseys; it's their local football team. But yeah,
no. You keep going on about that. That's Brazil, my friend.
I do, and you've got to congratulate them on one thing, in that they are the most talked about jersey. In Super Rugby, so they've definitely got that bit right, and their marketing men will be happy with that, if nothing else. Yeah,
as a PR stunt, is brilliant actually, because we can't stop talking about it, and I look at other like internet forums and so on. Everyone is talking about it.
So we follow that up with an Australian game, with the Rebels hosting the Sharks. Now the Rebels obviously lost their first game of the round of the season last weekend against the Tars. How do you see them going against the Sharks, because they were clearly shut up against under the high ball, weren't they?
Yes, we were, but I don't think Sharks can replicate what the Waratahs did. But wasn't it also still early days? It's still you can still get away a little bit with tactics and so on, because the other teams haven't always figured out what you're up to do yet. But as for every round that goes now, it's going to be harder and harder to just go on with your regular style, because the other team's basically going to take notice and see this is how we're going to counter it. So that will be interesting to see now with the Sharks. Because Sharks I'm a bit surprised then, because I would probably say they have the strongest 23 in South Africa. If you look, they get very far from getting like all we need from that 23.
Well, yes, I mean there was there was a lot of talk from most people that the Sharks were going to be the team challenging the Lions at the top of that conference, and I have seen a few comments on social media saying basically this is a do or die game for the Sharks already, even though it is just round 6. So there is that element to it. We're about a third of the way through the season now, which amazingly enough. So yeah, this is a must-win game in some ways for the Sharks, and they've been given the blueprint of how to do it. I'm just not convinced that the Sharks have got a Folau-like character
No.
to bring in to do that, unfortunately. So I think whilst they've been shown how to win the game, I don't see that they have the players to execute in the same way that the Waratahs did.
I agree with that, and also it was a little bit of a, how to say, like a freak game with it. It got to play it in 4 quarters. It was extremely warm, so it's always hard to like take that as a blueprint how to do it in the next game. I reckon.
Actually, one of the things we talked about on the Hash Rugby chat this week was which is the most important player to a team, because the drop off to the next down player. And the player we didn't mention was Dame Haylett-Petty, which actually in retrospect perhaps we should have, because he lost by him going off concussed, and by putting, pardon me, I've gone blank. The long distance kicker that plays at 12 normally for the Rebels, Hughes. No, anyway, Hodge. There we go. By putting him at fullback, he wasn't. They lacked that strength under the high ball. So I think we've seen that this time by the fact that Jack Maddox is going to play 15, not Hodge, and Hodge is going to go back to 12, which I think is going to be very important, because Dane Haylett-Petty is definitely not back. Ben Daly is also missing because of concussion. The other point to talk about, really, I guess, is that the short turnaround the Rebels have got, in that they came back from, they played on Sunday, and then this is now a Friday night game.
Valid point.
So
probably after a Sunday game like that in like almost 40 degrees, recovery is going to take longer than usual, for sure.
So yeah, so recovery, it has been all this. I've got an article on my website which talks about a week in the life of a rugby player, and in a normal week, recovery is important. In this week, it's going to be have been even more so for the Rebels. Still, I think at home, the Rebels by 10. Are you going for the Rebels, or do you think the Sharks can win this must-win game?
I'm going to go for the Rebels too, but I'm probably going to go down for the 5 points. 5 points win for Rebels. But what I might add is, but Waratahs was probably the first team so far that put real pressure on Will Genia, and when you get some pressure on him, I usually say like Aaron Smith, Conor Murray, and Will Genia are the 3 standout the scrum halves in the world, but I'd say both Conor Murray and Aaron better than Will Genia. So we'll see if the Sharks can replicate anything what the Waratahs did, because they put some real good pressure on it, and and all of a sudden the Rebels didn't pick at all.
Yeah, but both Aaron Smith and Murray don't have to cope with Debrasini outside them.
That's true. Damn, you mean today, Paul?
Yes, well, I'm sorry, I don't rate Debrasini as a player. He had some good moments in the Tars, but no, yeah, that was poor. So we move on from then up to Japan for the Sunwolves versus the Chiefs, and looking at the Sunwolves lineup, Tanaka back at 9, and Leach against his old team are the 2 key sort of names I picked out from that lineup.
What I picked out is, I think they look a little bit light in the second row this time. They don't play any other big tall timber in the second row today, and I wonder what they're thinking about that, because they're probably playing against the best lock in the world. So I can predict that Broder Italic going to have a field day at lineouts and so on.
And well, yes, I mean, historically we have said in the past that Japan lack the height in their players, so maybe it's going to come into effect here. The one player I'm surprised not to see selected by the Chiefs is Liam Messon. There was comments midweek that he was looking forward to locking horns with Leach, as these 2 guys have played next to each other for so long and against each other at international level. This would have been their first time or at this level. So I'm a bit surprised that Liam Messon's been not been given that opportunity.
I am too, but I think it's a little bit of a calculated risk the Chiefs are taking, because Chiefs already have so many injuries. So, and if they get more injured, that could be very, very tough for them. So I think like they taking a little risk here, sending a little bit weaker team than they actually could, and hoping that they're going to win it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen that we've gone. The Triple T is going to get a rare start, which is going to at halfback, as Webber gets to sit on the bench. Also, Falcon, who started the last couple of games, he's apparently got a niggles. He's missing this one. So we have got Damien McKenzie at 10, which is going to be interesting, and his older brother, Marty, at 15, which I'm surprised they're that way around, actually.
Yeah, but I think also Dave McKenzie himself wants to play at 10, because that's obviously where it's going to be. There's a spot open in the All Blacks bench there at fullback with both Ben Smith and Jody Barrett back. It's going to be way tougher for him to compete for that spot.
Yep, so it's going to be interesting. That one's, I think, the Chiefs by 5 because of the number of injuries and the fact they are fielding a weaker team. But unlike Andre, who says Chiefs could stumble on this one, I can't see Sunwolves, even with their performance against the Lions, having the class to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where it's coming from, because the Sunwolves have been there and about for a couple of games now to take the first win. And actually, last season when they played in Hamilton, Chiefs only beat Sunwolves 27-20, which might even be a bad thing, because that means Chiefs know that all right, these boys can play, so they will not be underestimated at all. So, yeah, I go Chiefs by 5 in this one, but I can see where Andre Michette is coming from. It's a small feeling in my stomach that this could be something, but I'm not going to put any money on it for sure.
Yeah, no, and then Sunwolves have travelled to and back from South Africa. The Chiefs have had the shorter journey up from New Zealand. So I think, all in all, both sides have got lots of injuries, and the Chiefs are taking a calculated risk in rotating a few players, but I still think they're going to get up. I'm not expecting an 80-point blowout as we've seen from the Hurricanes in years past.
Yeah, I think those days are long gone now, that when the Sun was going to beat the 80-90 points. They simply have too many good players now, and starting also to get used to Super Rugby, which is a brutal competition to get used to, a new team or a new player.
Yep, and then we go into what we've got to say is the tie of the round on Saturday night, New Zealand time. The Hurricanes versus the Highlanders. Any particular matchups you're looking forward to?
TJ against Aaron Smith is probably the one I'm looking most forward
to. So who you think is going to get the upper hand there then?
Aaron Smith. TJ on his day he will probably be real fired up, because if TJ outplays Aaron Smith in this one, I mean, he's still second in the All Blacks, but at least he will knock on the door a little bit to get that first jersey.
Yes, I think obviously there is definitely there's a bit of a All Blacks trial match in a couple of positions. So you've obviously got the two halfbacks. Historically, you'd say, or the last couple of years, you'd say Sopoaga it would be fighting against Bowden, would be fighting to try and get himself on the bench, but maybe with him going to Europe, that might not happen. Elliot Dixon squaring off against Artie Surveyor. Squiring off against Artie Surveyor. Naholo up against Julian Surveyor, except they're on opposite wings this time. So there is
Jordy Barrett and Ben Smith too, eh?
Well, except Jordy Barrett's. It's Jordy Barrett. I'm actually sorry. I need to quick check if Jordy's playing. I missed that. And yeah, if we've got Jordy at and obviously yes, Jordy Barrett against, as you say, up against Ben Smith as well. So there are a lot of a lot of sort of All Blacks facing off against each other in this one.
Well, and that's just a guarantee that you're going to see a cracking game. I mean, but it's going to be. If I was an All Black fan, I would be kind of nervous watching these games, because they are going so hard against each other. I mean, what kind of team are the All Blacks going to have in later in the year? Because there's no way everyone's going to stand up when we reach July, August, October, November.
Well, yes, there is that point, but this is why the All Blacks are so good, is that they are properly tested, and they have got these games. It's why players like Laumapi, when he stepped into the All Blacks, looked absolutely at home and didn't have any problems stepping into it. Why I think someone like Asso, even though he can't even make the Hurricanes starting 15, is someone that I think could quite happily step into that 13 jersey or 14 jersey for the All Blacks as well, and wouldn't look out of place. So yeah, it's that kind of that sort of been strengthened in fire, as they say, kind of thing, but is coming into this. It's interesting. They're going to. This is college night, and they've all got their college badges on, which is kind of interesting, as I didn't really think, that. So I guess that must be the sort of up to 18 sort of school, the schoolboys rugby, those that you're seeing where those come from, and you can see there are a couple of badges there that see Riccatelli and the two Barrett boys all went to the same college. So there's that's definitely got to be a good breeding ground for these players as well.
Oh, I want to ask you about an idea I have that some other sports do. Shouldn't Super Rugby have do a nostalgia night where you play like one round where everyone is using like old rugby shirts instead of the old rugby? Don't you think that would be a success, and both on pub with the PR, but also a lot of people would buy these shirts actually?
Yeah, well, we've had so Australia have had the sort of indigenous weekend, for example, and we have seen various other. So the Blues had a Harlequin jersey once, which I really liked, which had the Harbour, Northland, and Auckland colours in a Harlequin jersey for the Blues. That's my favourite Blues jersey ever. I've never been able to. I wasn't able to afford it while it was out there, and it's sold out now. So, so they have had one of those kind of things before. I'd love to see them in cotton jerseys, but I know that would never happen.
That's what I mean. Like all the way one, because it's going to be equal for everyone if they play in the.
There is no way they would do that, but that would be great. Yes, everyone has to wear a cotton jersey that's 3 sizes too big for them. So yeah, this is going to be an absolute cracker. Let's be honest. What are we going to see from the Highlanders? We're going to see the Highlanders put up lots of contestable kicks for Naholo and Ben Smith in particular to get under. I would not be surprised at all if Geordie Barrett, if Julian Surveyor in particular gets targeted, because he's not the best player in the air, but also Ben Lamb again. That Sevens background, he's quick and dangerous with ball in hand, but again, is he that great under the high ball? So I expect there to be plenty of that stuff coming from the Highlanders. The Hurricanes, on the other hand, it's just such a mouth-watering back line, isn't it? TJ Paranara, Bowden Barrett, Laumapi, Matt Proctor, keeping out Asso, who was the top try scorer last year. Outside them, Julian Severe, Ben Lamb, and with Geordie Barrett hitting the line as well. You're going to see them run from, if it's turnover ball, you can see them run from anywhere on the pitch, and they will have a go. So, which way are you going with this one? In which is the I'll let you go first with prediction this time.
For all, if I might actually put money on this game, but I'm going to put money that's going to be a very high scoring game, because I think both teams clearly are stronger on attack than on defense. And now I'm going to go with my gut feeling here. I'm going to say Highlanders by 2.
Wow. So I'm going Hurricanes by 5, which is the first time we've disagreed this weekend, which shows you this is a big one. Floyd in Pink saying Landers by 5. So we will have to see. This is the first game the Highlanders have played away from home. Now, okay, it's round 6 and this is only their 4th game, which just seems crazy. But that's Super Rugby scheduling for you, and it is their away game. So that seems kind of crazy. And so anyway, I think home advantage has been such a big thing in this season. So I'm going to back the home team.
Yeah,
now, unfortunately,
I saw a stat. So far, it's only been 77% of all games have the home team won so far.
Wow, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, and oh yes, and I think you've got something like 2 or 3 of those losses. Most of those losses have been by the Jaguares and the Sunwolves.
Yes.
And the Blues, actually, the Blues lost at home to the Chiefs, didn't they?
They did.
So, oops.
Luckily, the Blues have a weekend off this weekend, so so my team can't lose this weekend.
That's a good bye. That's a very good bye. Blues really needed a bye this week.
Dear. So then we move on to the sub-couple of games where we haven't had seen the teams yet, but the Stormers host the Reds. What do you think we can expect to see from those two sides?
Oh, I think Stormers. I think Stormers is one of the most interesting teams so far this season, because I think I could see improvement in them all the time. They are building, and they're building nicely. And Reds, you read about this travel problem they had, that when they came, they have been in the air for many hours this week. So maybe
just to explain that to people who haven't seen, basically the Reds didn't have their yellow fever shots. For some reason, they believed they didn't need to have them because they were flying there from Argentina, not from Australia. It's not where you're flying from, it's where you're going to that matters when you're talking about inoculations. They got that wrong, and had the advice they got was wrong. So they had to fly via London to get their inoculations and then fly down to South Africa, which is just nuts. So yes, they arrived 15 hours late. One of the things we've already talked about is that recovery is so important, and being cramped on an aeroplane, even in first class, isn't a way to recover. So no, the Reds are going to struggle with the fitness side of things.
I think the pressure inside an airplane is similar to the 3,000 meters. The pressure, right, in an airplane, it's equivalent to be at a 3,000 meters height, on a 3,000 meter high mountain.
Oh, so you're saying it's actually altitude training?
Well,
yes. So I think I think the Reds are going to come up short. I expect the Reds to stick with what has been working for them, which is a very nuggety forward pack effort, perhaps more of a South African style of play than we'll see from the Stormers. But yeah, a very nuggety effort. A lot of keep going to the end because they're too scared of not doing so, because Brad Thornton's harder than all the players are put together. But whereas the Stormers, as you say, will just they've been at home, they haven't had all the travel, they'll be much fitter, and they are showing improvement not week on week. So yeah, I've gone Stormers by 3. Perhaps you've now talked me into thinking it should be bigger than that. Andre's gone Stormers by 15. Whereabouts are you sat on this one?
I go Stormers by 12.
In between, yep. So the last game of the round, the Jaguares host the Lions, and here we are in round 6, and this is the second time these teams have faced each other this season.
Yeah, that's quick. That's very quick. But this is also the first time ever Lions actually bring their first squad to Buenos Aires, because they lost both times in 17 and 16, but they send basically the B team. But this is the first time ever Lions will send the first squad.
Yeah, it's the first squad that obviously isn't injured. So, for example, their starting scrum half is missing because he's got an ankle injury. So I think there are a couple of players that perhaps, if this was a bigger game, that the Lions might have forced in. But I think they're letting a couple of niggles or lighter injuries resting. They are rotating a couple of players. But yes, so just a reminder that the Jaguares won both their home games against the Lions by 12 points each time. I must say, I did my prediction before I heard who had gone on, who they'd taken on tour. So I went Jaguares by 3. They are a confident side at Jaguares. So if they get a good start, I think they've got a good chance. If they don't start well, then I think the Lions will win it rather comfortably.
Yeah, I agree with that. But probably what could be with your prediction about Jaguares winning it, also that it doesn't matter really that Lions had the second string before, but just the feeling that this is the game we usually win, maybe it can settle the nerves in the Jaguares a little bit more, that they actually believe that they can beat this team. But Jaguares, I mean, pardon my French, but I go nuts when I'm watching them. They tend to be the most stupid rugby team on the world. I mean, they are doing everything like to not win games.
Yes, they were chalk and cheese between their win over the Waratahs and then their loss to the Reds. In one game, they got a try in the first, I think it was 11 seconds or whatever it was, and they just never looked back from there on in. Against the Reds, they didn't start off so well, and frustration got to them. They dropped the ball too often. They turned the ball over. It was appalling.
They scored the first try against the Reds too.
Did they? Okay.
No, they did they?
But they then fell apart. As you say, they did everything they could do to lose the game. To me, this game will be won in the first 15 minutes. Won or lost.
Yeah, but no. I cannot agree. I mean, Jaguares, they can always find a way to lose the games. You know? They can.
If the Jaguares aren't in it after 15 minutes, they're not going to be in it at all. If they're not leading after 15 minutes, they will not win this game. You're right. The Lions do have the capacity to come back, whereas the Jaguares just don't. Jaguares have to lead throughout the game to win this one. So I've got Jaguares by 3. Andre has said that the Lions won't make the same mistake again, surely. Floyd has said Lions to win the cat fight. Which way are you going?
I'm going to go Lions too. I go Lions by 7.
Lions by 7. Okay, so there we go. We've disagreed on 2 games. The Hurricanes versus the Highlanders and the Jaguares versus the Lions. So make up your own minds.
You're sticking with Jaguares.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, sticking with the Jaguares.
You're a brave man, Paul.
Once I've made my decision and once I've made it public, it stays the same.
And it's final.
It is final, and I gave my predictions. We did them at the end of the #Rugby Chat on Tuesday night. So once they're made, and you'll find they'll be consistent across all my shows. So, yes, that's that. Yes, perhaps I will lose that one. But so, thank you very much for joining me, Hermann. We have actually finished just about on time this time, which is a miracle. Yay! We've done it within a half hour. Andre says I've had too many craft beers. Yes, I have had one this evening. I did save everybody the photo today. I let them off on Twitter. Otherwise, people have seen the beer I've been having every night. So thank you very much for joining me. Obviously, folks, please do subscribe. The red box down below, or my face will be there on the recording. Up there will be a box with my latest video. Obviously, you can get hold of me at DrivingMaul or comment down below. Always up for good old Rugby chat. Don't forget to enjoy whatever rugby you're watching this weekend.